What the Tech is sponsored by Carbonite Online Backup. Automatic, continual, and unlimited backups for your computer. Try it for free at Carbonite.com and use offer code WhatTheTech and get 2 bonus months with purchase. Audible.com, the internet's leading provider of audiobooks, with more than 100,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. For a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/Andrew.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian on this very special day, Xbox announcement day, and I'm joined by Paul Thurrott, as I am each and every week. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Well, that's not true. You were not here last week.
Right. How did that go?
That is probably the first show you have ever missed.
Yeah. I mean, I've had to reschedule a bunch of times.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, we've done it. It was virtually impossible last week.
Yeah.
So we had Josh Coleman fill in for you. I had a lot of fun with him.
Good.
He's a cool guy. That's how I describe everybody. He's a cool guy. Like Paul Thurrott. Paul Thurrott's a cool guy. I guess today is the day that we discuss the Xbox and everything that was unveiled. Where do we begin?
Did they announce something?
Yeah. There's this new thing called the Xbox One. First, let's start. What do you think of the name?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm unclear why that's better than just Xbox, but okay. And I think the point of the name, if we can speculate a bit, is that they wanted to suggest that this thing was the one device that will do it all. You know, that it is a video game machine, but also a place for online entertainment. You know, TV shows, movies, music, and so forth.
It was actually. I like the fact that it was an hour long.
Yeah,
really quick.
Not even. Yeah.
Really to the point. They got everything they needed. I mean, unlike the Surface announcement, which was forever.
Well, yeah. some teams get entertainment and some teams don't.
During the announcement, at first, you know, they started talking about it and they said, "Here's the new Xbox," and they showed this, you know, CGI animated video of what it'll look like.
By the way, kudos to those guys for showing it right away.
Well, you know what? That's what I was getting to. I was really, it bummed me out when I saw that the graphics thing that they did, because I initially thought, I said, oh man, they're not going to show it.
Yeah.
They're just going to show, you know, a computer animated version of what it is.
Sony didn't, right? So there was always that thought that maybe they wanted to wait just in case, you know, but they didn't. So, you know, good for them.
The only weird part of the hardware, the control looks beautiful. Mm-hmm. The Kinect. By
the way, I want to point out something about the controller. It looks fake. If you look at the shots of those, it looks like there are not like decals or kind of discs kind of glued to the top of that thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do change the logo and that they show that off at E3. But if you look at the close-ups, that logo especially, but also the two kind of new-looking buttons that are just below it, they look like they were kind of glued right on.
Yeah, look at that. I don't know if you guys can see it. I have it pulled up, but you're right. Now that you say that,
I mean, look at that Xbox logo. Look how awful that looks.
Yeah,
it looks like a little wood carving that they kind of threw on there. So it doesn't mean it's going to change.
I mean, the design looks good. I mean, it looks like it's a decent design for the controller.
The Xbox controller is so perfect, right? As it is, you can see how they evolved it for this design. Absolutely what they needed to do. It's good.
The Kinect is gigantic. Let's just say that.
I know it's well, the console itself is gigantic, and then this new Kinect is huge and not integrated in any way. I
have this exact same thing in my attic, and it's an 8-track player.
Exactly, I do too, and it's a Betamax player with a top loader.
I mean, it's really big. I was having this discussion with somebody right before the show. They go, "Well, I'm kind of disappointed that it's big. Why do you think they went that big, considering everything is getting smaller and smaller, especially with these set-top boxes? Nobody wants a gigantic black box sitting in their living room." I said, "You know why? Because it's replacing the cable box." That's my theory.
I wonder. Maybe. Yeah. I hope that's what it is. I hope it's a. I don't think it is though. You know, the input is HDMI. And so that suggests a couple of things, right?
Well, it also has output. It also has output.
Right, HDMI in and out. I mean, so people have been speculating about whether you might be able to do like an Xbox 360 pass-through, because one of the things about the new console is that it's not backwards compatible. And that's a possibility, I suppose. But those two HDMI ports that you're showing now, one is in and one is out. And so, and I believe that big, weird-looking connector to the right of the USB ports is Kinect, right? The square.
Which one? This one right here?
No, over to the right.
Oh, this one. Oh, yeah, this one right here.
Kinect.
So what is this thing right there?
That's the power cord.
Okay, that's the power cord. Okay.
Hopefully not attached to a brick. Hopefully that thing is so big the brick's inside, and you just have a cord. That's what that looks like, as a cord, like a simple cord.
I mean, it's what I thought it would be. Except for the size. The size, I thought they were going to go for this. Out of all the names that you heard, I mean, I'm sure a lot of names came to you over the last 6 months with the speculation. Was this one of them?
I don't even want to say no, because I honestly have such a bad memory. I don't believe so. I don't remember hearing this. And when they said Xbox One, I didn't say, oh, yeah. My best sources of information, the guys that I've been quoting, with the various things that I've discussed in the past, have never said a name for the console, ever. And I've not asked, to be clear as well. But I don't recall this being one of the names. So they gave us the name. That was obviously expected. And they gave us the box. And it's funny, for all of the stuff around Always Connected and all of the junk that people were worried about, those were actually the two biggest questions about this device. So they actually answered the big stuff right up front.
They answered that. And the hardware specs, they also answered, which I want to run through, and then we'll talk about, the media stuff. I have in some of the notes. What was funny? Nobody had a list of all the hardware. Ooh, my headphones are out. There we go.
Well, I didn't get a briefing kind of rundown. So in my case, I can just say that, this information appears to be kind of scattered. Xbox.com is down.
Yeah. I mean, I went on, I got it from The Verge. I actually went to you immediately. When this was happening, I was refreshing Win Super site over and over again, and I finally saw the photos. I'm like, oh, this is a good shot. So people wondering where I'm getting all the pictures from, it's winsupersite.com, which I told Paul, where are your notes on Win Super site? I need to rip off.
I know, I should have I did take copious notes, but I did it for myself. 8 gigs of RAM. I know that was one of the ones I mentioned.
So 8
what do
gigs
you
of
got
RAM.
for specs? Let's talk specs.
8 gigs of RAM, single custom 40 nanometer chip with 8-core CPU and GPU system on a chip. I'm curious who the
system on a chip. Now, that's required for the power up states they were talking about, right? So it's got kind of that
who's
Windows
making a
8
chip?
style.
It's an AMD chip, right?
That's what I was going to ask you. I don't know.
AMD.
But it is x86.
X86, yeah. Blu-ray, which I was surprised about that they have a Blu-ray drive in there.
I revealed that previously.
But I forget. I mean, we
no, I know. I do too. That's my thing.
I totally forget everything that we talk about.
Yep.
USB 3.0. Wireless N. The camera is 1080p wide-angled camera, which I'm curious to see what the quality on that thing is going to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obvious spec upgrades.
Wi-Fi Direct, by the way.
Yeah, what is that? I didn't understand what that was.
I believe that we should look this up as I speak in case I'm wrong, but I think that, if I'm not mistaken, Wi-Fi Direct is the Intel technology that lets you, actually, as I'm saying that, it's not. I'm thinking WiDi. I'm not. What is Wi-Fi Direct?
Yes. If someone knows exactly what that is,
look it up.
Wi-Fi Direct. This is what we do on the show.
I am thinking WiDi, but that's maybe this is.
Initially called Wi-Fi peer-to-peer, is a standard for enabling Wi-Fi devices to easily connect to each other and quickly communicate without requiring wireless access points.
This is going to be how they do Xbox Smart Glass, and I bet this is going to be how they get really good performance out of that.
Yeah. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't watch this thing and go, oh man, I wish they put this in. They really couldn't have screwed up the hardware. I mean, that's something they couldn't have messed up, because we were expecting no optical drive. I mean, at one point, and I think I would have been okay with no optical. The fact that it has a DVD player in there, a Blu-ray player in there, kind of justifies. Okay, well, if the price point is going to be a higher price point than what people want, at least it has that PS3 type thing going for itself, where it's like, well, it has a Blu-ray.
They didn't say the price, right?
No, they did not.
So I had previously been told that there would be a $500 version, which was, non-subsidized, standalone, you buy it. and then a version for $300 that would include a requirement that you subscribe to Xbox Live Gold for 2 years at a cost of $15 per month.
But see, actually, that's not bad. That's not bad at all, in my opinion.
But they're not doing that now. So yesterday, I was told that subsidized option is now off the table.
So it's $3.99.
And by the way, you know, I actually don't think this is a big deal, but you know how people think, and you know how people will make fun of things. If they had announced something called the Xbox One, and there were 2 versions of it, I think people would have made fun of that, right?
Xbox One,
only Microsoft would announce 2 Xbox Ones.
Well, you know what they could have done? Xbox One and Xbox One Plus.
Okay, but
that's a Microsoft thing to do.
Sure.
So let's say the price point is $3.99, right?
Let's say it's $4.99.
Oh, $4.99. $4.99. I'm sorry, you said $500. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the what was the price point for the Xbox 360 when it started? I think it was the same.
That's a great question. We should prepare for this podcast.
Yeah, especially when we have stuff like this. Come on, chat room, tell us.
You think I would? And then this is where my memory, completely fails me.
I could have swore to you initially it was $3.99.
I bet it was $4.99, but
I waited online. I should know.
Let me see. Okay, no, according to Wiki News, I guess, which I assume is part of Wikipedia, it was $3.99.
$3.99, yeah. Okay.
That was for the premium edition. Actually, excuse me, there was a $2.99 version, which probably came with like a 512 megabyte key. They had those white memory key things.
Yeah.
For the first version of the 360, and then the premium version must have had a hard drive, which I'm going to guess was 20.
All right, so let's do this. You're getting 500 gigs of RAM, gigs of memory, storage, and you're getting a Blu-ray player. So let's add $100. Let's the Blu-ray's what's $100, let's say. So that's $3.99. So it's about the same price point, but you're still getting a lot more, and you're getting a Kinect with it, and you did not get that previously.
So by the way, the Blu-ray player obviously will play Blu-ray movies, but coincidentally, last weekend I went into a Best Buy, and I was there for something completely unrelated. I actually don't visit Best Buy as much as I used to, as I'm sure it's the case for many people because of the way things have gone with e-commerce and everything. And I wandered over to the what I called the DVD section because I'm an old guy, and I didn't actually realize that they don't sell DVDs at Best Buy anymore, by the way.
You're kidding me.
No, it's all Blu-ray now.
Huh.
Very small section. Not as small as the section for music, which is laughable. There are fewer CDs in Best Buy than I have in my basement. But I felt like an old timer walking around in the store because I'm completely out of touch with what they sell here now. And the reason I was in there was I was looking for a movie that I've had a really hard time finding properly captioned because I want my son to see it. And we had rented it from Amazon, and the caption was off by the captioning was off by about 10, 12 seconds. So it was impossible to watch it with captioning. But I actually don't think that Blu-ray as a delivery device for movies is viable long term. There are going to be people who have Blu-ray movies, but I don't really think. I think this is just games. I think Blu-ray is just because they want to be able to sell this device in stores so they can have these launch events, and they have to have a way to deliver huge games on a single piece of media. Also, and so Blu-ray goes up to humongous storage allotments.
I mean, this to get off the Xbox thing for a second. But do you think do you think there's a future for optical? Because I think there is. Physical media, there is a future for it when you talk about 4K and 8K at this point, because it's going to be nearly impossible for the next for quite a long time to deliver that over the internet.
Going in your car to a store to buy a thing that you then bring home and plug into another thing so that you can enjoy some form. Yeah, it is. Yeah. That is so old timey. It is. I don't care how much quality there is in a Blu-ray movie or how much storage it has. That is not how things are done. That is on the way out. That is dead technology walking as far as movies go. And by the way, I know saying that, I'm going to hear from the video file guys, and I understand, but it's just not the way things are going to be.
See, I personally, and I agree with you personally for me, because I never go and buy a DVD or even a Blu-ray. I have 4 Blu-rays, and I've watched them once, and they're sitting on a shelf. You know, I have this crazy DVD collection that I have it on there. Everything that I'm watching is either Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, and everything is streaming. We're still not getting 1080p streaming. We're compromising, like we did with MP3s, the quality for the availability of it and the ease of access to it. But I think right now, because we're going to make that jump to 4K very soon. I mean, within the next 10 months, 24 months, Sony's probably going to put an optical device out, and here we go, 4K players or whatever they're going to call it, 4K Blu-rays. So I think there is some sort of weird place for it, but as far as mainstream goes, no, it's not necessary at all. I don't think it matters.
You could buy an album of music right now if you wanted to, but I don't think that's the future either.
I want to buy records, Paul.
I understand.
Oh, the photons. Did you hear about the photons?
No. What was
during the conference, they I forgot who said it. He goes, and the new Xbox has millions of photons.
I think that was a Star Trek reference because they did Star Trek demos.
Was that what it was?
Yeah. Photon is from Star Trek.
I thought that's a real thing. Okay. I thought they were actually talking about some sort of electrical whatever.
Photon does sound like the code name for some Microsoft product. I think it was a...
No, there is a photon. No, there are photons.
There are photons?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
A photon.
What is
it? It's a concept. The concept was developed by Albert Einstein, explaining experimental...
Right, no, I mean, what is a photon in the context of an...
I guess they were trying to talk about how... all the transistors and everything is so quick and new on this thing where it's instantaneous. I don't even know why they brought it up. They said it has millions of active photons during the thing, and I was like, so awesome. I'm like, oh my god, this thing does Blu-rays and it has photons. This is great. No, I don't think it was a reference to Star Trek at all. I think they actually were trying to say that this thing has millions of photons, and that's why it's going to be fast. And the other quote was rocket science stuff. This is the stuff that makes up rocket science.
Yeah, no,
I liked it. It was nice.
Sure.
What did you think of the whole instant switching thing? I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a lot. One of the big complaints about the Xbox 360 is how lousy the performance of this thing is. When you're in a game, generally speaking, it's fine, but any type of action that takes place in what we would think of as the OS, even though they don't really talk about it that way, but the Xbox obviously has an operating system. Anytime you switch between experiences or end an experience and thus have to bring up the I almost call it the Blade UI, but whatever the default shell is now, that tile-based thing that they have, there is a tremendous amount of lag. And that kind of system, because it was the Xbox 360 is what we can now call kind of an old school video game machine, was designed for the age where you do one thing at a time. And over its lifetime, all this other stuff started happening, and it really isn't designed to do things like run two things on the screen at the same time, run some stuff in the background while you're doing something else, so that when you switch to it, it just comes back really quickly or even instantly. It just doesn't do that kind of stuff. And so these capabilities in the new Xbox are hugely important, because that's the kind of performance that people are going to expect. And that's what makes it a nice experience instead of the 360, where that kind of stuff, which a lot of it can't even do, but just the simple experience of quitting a game and going back to the shell. It's like, oh, come on. Or one of the things I do a lot on the Xbox by mistake is I'll hit that the thing that looks like the Xbox logo, that silver guide button. If you hit that during a game by mistake, the game doesn't pause, because you're online. I mean, the game continues around you, but you stop moving. The screen kind of freezes to a halt, and then slowly the Xbox guide experience appears over it, and then you're frantically hitting the B key, which is back, to get out of it. And several numbers of seconds goes by, and it doesn't sound a lot as I describe it, but I can assure you, when you have mistakenly hopped out of a game and someone is shooting at you or whatever's happening in the game, and you need to get back right then, that is so frustrating. And so hopefully that's the problems, those are the problems that they've solved with that kind of performance.
I mean, it was instantaneous. I mean, it was amazing to see how fast it was, and how I just hope that, when they actually release it, it's going to function that way. That's the only thing.
Sure. There's always that a chance that we just saw some vaporware, kind of demo on screen, but
the Kinect
looked like it was real.
The Kinect was cool with the pinch and zoom stuff. You're able to kind of minimize that and you're able to multitask on this thing, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's great. The only thing that I was a little confused on was, they're talking about the cable, like we said, we don't know exactly what it's going to do. Is it going to piggyback on the cable box? I'm imagining it is, but they did not mention that. And I'm curious if they haven't mentioned that because they haven't locked in deals with the cable providers yet.
Yeah, he mentioned specifically Comcast, I think, or Xfinity, one of the two.
I didn't hear that, but I noticed that they were all Viacom stations he was showing on TV.
Yeah. So the two possibilities are it will be universal, in which case it will be terrible because that kind of experience is just hard to do. It's IR blasting and all that kind of stuff. And I don't see any evidence that that's what it's going to do. And so if you think about the way that the Xbox 360 is today, they have specific apps for some of the cable providers. They have Fios, they have Xfinity, they might have Comcast. I don't recall exactly the list. But I think I look at this as kind of a next-gen version of that. And my guess, my cable box, which is awful, does have HDMI out. So you could go out from the cable box to it. I actually do think that a cable box is going to be required because what comes into that box is a cable. Yeah. It's not HDMI. There's still a cable company style cable, a coaxial, cable. So unless the Xbox has that input, which by the way it might, maybe we should look at the back of that again. Maybe that is one of the inputs. It would be so awesome to bypass a box and have this thing do a box replacement or what we might think of as like a cable.
I actually got a really zoomed in copy. Josh Coleman just sent me one of the Xbox. Right, so here's the back. So there you go. The Xbox cable, HDMI out, a SPDIF, HDMI in, USB,
so
USB.
That's not it. Yeah, they don't have it. So they don't have coax.
IR out. It has an IR blaster. Has IR out.
Yep. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see. If it's IR blasting, and that way it would work with any system, even if it wasn't natively supported. That stinks. If it's just HDMI, it's still maybe not what you're looking for in the sense that you still would have to go through the cable box.
No, but Apple TV, not Apple, Google TV. That's how it works. I mean, it piggybacks off your cable.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That kind of stinks. In other words, it can't replace your cable box. It piggybacks off of it. It looks like what they did was so immediate and excellent that there are going to be integration pieces, at least with some of the key cable carriers. And so maybe we should reserve judgment on how, because we don't really know. We're just talking about it. I don't know how it's going to work, but
listen, Google's doing a okay job with it. I'm sure Microsoft could do a better job than what they're doing just via HDMI and the cable provider. But if you have Fios, they could possibly do, IP based, just like the app, and they have all the channels now available. I mean, they could do that.
Actually, who knows? Wi-Fi Direct might be how they blast it from a router to your. Yeah. I don't know. So it may not be worth speculating because I just don't know.
Fascinating stuff. I want to continue this discussion, but of course we have to take a little, tiny little break and thank our sponsor, Carbonite. The show wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for Carbonite. Why should you get Carbonite? I want to talk about this for a second because every week I tell you guys stories about disasters that have happened. I've told you how I've had to install it on my mother-in-law's computer and my wife's computer, and virtually everybody that I know now has Carbonite. I just put it on my father's laptop. Paul, my father has not used a computer since having a Tandy in the 80s.
Andrew, I just want to make sure I understand what you just said to me. Did you say your father?
My father. Yeah, that's in New York. Yeah, you see what happens? You see what happens? The happy bill's kicking. My father. And we don't say percent either. We say percent.
Yeah.
It just happens. So my father, listen, I hear the Boston come out sometimes from you too.
I said to my daughter the other day that I liked something because it was better.
Better.
And then she looked at me. She kind of turned around. She was like, "I'm sorry, what was it?"
Yeah. So my dad, he hasn't had a computer in years, and I just gave him I built a little laptop for him over the holiday, and I just put Carbonite on there because now he's discovering files. So it's like Windows 95 for him. Like, he's deleting stuff randomly.
Right.
I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to back everything up. He's doing a lot of Excel stuff on there. He's doing a lot of Microsoft Word stuff on there. So I'm backing everything up. All his files go into the cloud. I never have to worry if anything happens, if he destroys the thing, if he drops it. Never have a concern about that because everything is being backed up with Carbonite. Also, Carbonite has a mobile app. They have an iPad app, so you could access all your files while you're gone, if you need to get something. This is why you should get Carbonite. $59 a year. Available on the Mac or PC, and you get a free trial. Try it for free. If you go to Carbonite.com and you put in offer code WhatTheTech, you'll get 2 bonus months free when you decide to purchase Carbonite with offer code WhatTheTech. Be sure to sign up for the trial and check it out. You have nothing to lose. Great service, reliable, easy. You back it up, you never worry again. That's Carbonite. Carbonite.com. I want to thank them for supporting WhatTheTech. So my father told me the other day, Paul.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy, my father. Anything stand out for you? Anything, you're like, wow, this is really cool? Or is this everything you had initially expected?
I have to say most of what I saw was not surprising in any way. And I don't want to call it underwhelming because I'm actually very excited about this device and its potential. I think Microsoft was, hasn't necessarily made a huge business of it yet, but they did see this possibility of the living room and how you could have a device that would do the job, and not just be a video game box. And it seems like in this case, they're finally realizing that goal, And so I think that's important. They talk about things like, future-proof and multitasking and the new Kinect stuff and how, much more denser it is and all that stuff. But I don't know, like this stuff is all as you would expect, right? We knew the next Kinect was going to have higher fidelity. We knew that this thing was going to be way more powerful. There were questions around backwards compatibility and some specifics.
By the way, the photon reference was talking about the Kinect. They were discussing the Kinect when they said photons.
Okay.
So I guess that's why it's far more accurate, the way that the light goes in.
So the photons.
Yeah. The photons make it a lot better.
Okay. I'm going to have to go back. This is tough because I was taking notes while they were talking. I took many screenshots. And then I'm occasionally throwing something up on Twitter as well. And I may have missed some stuff. This is one of those things where we have about 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, until E3. And this is going to be worth going over and looking at again and again and again.
I'm just surprised at certain things that they left out. Like, they didn't really make a case for the second screen experience that you could potentially have with the Surface and with your Windows Phone. They kind of alluded to it, and they kind of said, like, well, second screen. They said, what is it, Glass? What is it, the app that they have?
Yeah, Smart Glass.
Smart Glass, yeah.
Smart Glass is and will continue to be very agnostic. And so, Windows 8 and RT ship with this app, or will, I guess. Windows Phone obviously has the app, but the app is on iOS. It's on iPhone and iPad and iPod Touch. It's on Android, so you can get it on Android handsets and tablets. And this, he pulled out what looked like a red Lumia 920 each time to do his little quickie. I can control this thing like a remote control. But the truth is, this is going to be stuff that you can do from any portable device. And that's an important distinction because that is representative of the new Microsoft. It's not, you don't have to have Windows to do that stuff.
I'm just. Did you think they would make a bigger plea for it and say, like, it plays such a huge role in what we're doing? Like, if you have a Surface and you have Xbox Live, like, some games are going to be shared. Like, you could play Castle Crashers if you have an Xbox Live account on your Surface. I thought that
possibility exists right now, right? We just don't see a lot of that.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how this stuff evolves. I mean, the other thing to remember is that this is just the reveal. So they picked very specific things to talk about this time. They have an E3 event coming up in June, early June. They've got builds coming up at the end of June where they're going to talk about developer stuff for the Xbox. And then the device, comes out over time, early November. So there's a lot of more time to talk about this thing. I mean, this is just the beginning. So this is the big reveal.
When do you think the release is going to be? They said by the end of the year, but...
Early November.
Early November. I mean, they have to get Christmas, right?
Yeah. They
have to hit Christmas. I mean, this is really cool. Really, really cool stuff. I'm just hoping like those little things, like the deals with the providers and the ability to play certain games, and access it. They did leave a lot of that out, and I'm wondering if they're just saving it for E3.
Sure. And depending on your needs in the living room, I mean, if what you're looking for is an inexpensive way to do Netflix and Hulu Plus and things like that, I mean, obviously you can get a Roku box for $60 to $100. So this is not an alternative to that. I mean, they're really positioning this as kind of a premium experience, and it's going to have the price tag to match, and it will go up directly against the the PS4. I mean, this is not a casual device in any way, shape, or form. It's in some ways very radical. So, this first holiday period, we're going to find out who the Xbox fans are, because those are the guys who are going to be buying this. And then after that, we're going to have to see. I mean, I expect over time the console to come down in size, for one thing. I can't believe how big this thing is.
Yeah, it's gigantic.
And also the price, obviously. So,
I mean, I'm going to be in line waiting for it. I'll do the crazy.
Yeah, no, me too. I
release thing.
I'm definitely getting one. I mean, the thing is, I will say this: they alluded to the notion that the Xbox Live membership, as they called it, the subscription, would kind of continue and be enhanced, right? So, in other words, you're still going to have to pay for Xbox Live Gold to get the best experience on this thing. Part of me really does not like that, and I've argued about this a lot, that this is the one market where Microsoft has Apple-style customers who are really loyal and dedicated to the console.
And you're kind of screwing them.
And they're really kind of screwing them.
Yeah.
And it shows you how any company can behave in that fashion when they have the captured audience that Apple does. So that's too bad. And I will be paying attention to what Sony does as well, because remember, Sony also had a reveal event. They didn't give everything away. E3's coming for them as well. And there's little doubt. I mean, I almost certainly, barring some major development otherwise, we'll be getting a PS4 as well. And I'll put these things head to head. I mean, once you break compatibility with the past, it's kind of like, well, it's not as big of a deal. Not sticking with the same console. So we'll see.
There were a couple things that they said that stood out for me. Like, actually, before I get into that, do you know what percentage of Xbox users do not have Live Gold membership? I would imagine that it would have to be very high.
That do have
Xbox Live.
I'm guessing it's like 90%.
Yeah, I mean,
here's why. So they don't break it down to paid and non-paid, right? Anyone can have a free account, what used to be called a silver account, and there are certainly advantages to having one. I would be surprised that that anyone would get an Xbox and not have such a thing. I mean, it's just so automatic.
But what do you get from the silver account? I'm just curious. I've never had a silver. I've always had a gold account from the day that the original Xbox came out.
There are certain capabilities that you have to have the gold for, right? Some kind of matchmaking type stuff. The truth is, you can have a silver and play online. Like, you can actually get online and play games online. It's not that restricted, but they've enhanced the gold part of it a lot over time to include a lot of the entertainment stuff. So if you want to run Netflix or Hulu, one of those apps, you have to have the gold subscription. I just looked at these numbers today because I was writing something about the Xbox before the reveal event. They've sold something like 77 million consoles, but there are 46 million Xbox Live account holders. I think that number is really close to the actual number of users.
So what is it? 76 million consoles and 46 million gold accounts.
Yeah, 77.
I mean that's significant. I mean that's a very high amount.
Well, I mean it depends on how you look at it. I think that 46 to 50 is probably the actual user base for the Xbox 360. That is a number that is significantly lower than the number of PCs that are sold in 1 quarter of 1 year, and so. This thing's been in the market for 7.5 years. We're not talking about necessarily a huge market, but the potential's huge because everyone has a living room. Most people in the United States at least have an HD TV. And I have a bunch of little boxes under my TV for doing different things. And one box, certainly the appeal of this is great. I can't stand my cable box. A machine that could do it all, there's absolutely appeal to that.
What do you think? I'm just thinking, what do you think Sony's answer to this will possibly be? I was on all these gaming sites while this was happening, and I'm seeing the war go back and forth, saying like, PlayStation had such a better announcement, and they actually showed games, and they didn't just show trailers for games, and it's going back and forth. But Sony really has to feel the pressure at this point, because Microsoft has pretty much said this is going to become the full-fledged media device in your living room. You just connect it to the cable box. You're never switching back and forth. And I've always said this is a major thing for people. You are more likely to use the product if you don't have to switch it over. You're in the same ecosystem at all times.
Yeah.
Between that and all the media partnerships that they're doing, and obviously the titles that they have exclusive to Xbox, I don't know what they could potentially do to be, this is better than Xbox at this point. For a while, it was a Blu-ray player.
Yeah. Yep. Sony historically has not done well with user interfaces, and that's true of the software that you see on the screen. It's true of the hand controllers they have, and the remote controls and everything. So they really need to fix that. I think that if you look at the UI that Microsoft showed up on Xbox One, it's very clearly a slightly evolved version of that UI that they have today on the Xbox 360, and looks a lot like the Xbox apps that we see today, Windows 8 and RT.
Hey, well, they said something that was interesting. Did you notice how they said it's 3 operating systems in one machine?
Why, yes, Andrew, I did notice that.
Why did they make that into a big deal?
Right. I actually am curious why this is better than just going with a pure Windows 8 OS, but the way they've explained it is that, well, actually, I should step back for a second. NT Guru, the guy who created Windows NT, Dave Cutler, worked on this. So perhaps not surprisingly, the core of this is an NT-based kernel running Hyper-V, which is Microsoft's virtualization solution. And that thing kind of sits underneath the 2 other OSs, which are Windows 8 Core and what they're calling Xbox OS, an evolved version of the OS that sat inside the Xbox 360. And so I haven't verified this, but according to a friend of mine on Twitter, apparently the Xbox OS actually needs to reboot between games. And so by having these two things running in tandem,
but wait,
they can give you that seamless experience.
Has it always been like that?
No. This is a completely different architecture.
Oh, so totally different.
The Xbox 360 has something, we'll just call it the Xbox OS, and that's just it. It was, like I said, old school console designed for a different age. You do one thing at a time, and that's it. And so it boots into a game. The OS is out of the way. It probably is not running almost at all, aside from a couple of supporting services. And then when you end the game or whatever app you're in, it runs back up. This thing, because of the kind of sophisticated, hypervisor-based nature of it, allows you to allows those multitasking capabilities that I think are hugely important to this console.
Is that going to be the story of this console? The fact that it handles multitasking so well, and it's something that has never really been done on a console before?
It is going to be the story if you don't see this happen with the Sony PlayStation 4. If the PlayStation 4 works like the PS3 or like the Xbox 360, that is a huge differentiator. But
I mean, they haven't even discussed that. I mean, when they showed, I guess, their interface a little bit, they didn't really say like, okay, we were able to multitask on this thing. They just showed, a basic interface that they have, and here, this is how you do it.
Well, we don't know a lot about it yet, but we'll see. But I think this is Microsoft just playing to their technological strength and maybe doing something that other companies either can't do or won't do as well. So I guess we'll see.
I'm curious. Already there are like versus, fights and stuff. So I just want to run down some of the information. So the PS4 has been, from the information that we know, it's going to be an 8-core AMD.
Mm-hmm. PS4 or
PS4.
Okay.
I believe the Xbox
One.
I
also an 8-core AMD.
Now I'm thinking maybe it was a mistype on that website, because according to Engadget, it just says 8-core CPU.
Okay.
The GPU is a D3D 11.1 chip with 32 megs embedded memory.
All right, that doesn't tell you anything.
It means nothing.
D3D is Direct 3D. It's Microsoft's display technology.
PlayStation 4 is going to be an AMD Radeon. Memory, 8 gigs of memory, DDR3. PS4 is 8 gigs of memory, GDDR5.
Okay.
Storage is 500 gigs. We don't know about the PlayStation yet. Blu-ray DVD, both have Blu-ray DVD, both have USB 3.0. Ethernet, three 802.11n Wi-Fi radios. What does that mean? Three 802.11 Wi-Fi radios.
I think that just means multi-channel.
Multi-channeled, okay.
Yeah.
It also has Wi-Fi Direct, and the PS4 has Bluetooth and 802.11n.
PS3, PlayStation 3 and 4 use Bluetooth for the controller connectivity, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I assume that's the same thing. Yeah. It's possible that Microsoft is using this Wi-Fi Direct for the controllers too, by the way.
That could possibly be it, yeah. Here's an interesting part. HDMI in and out, 1080p and 4K support on the new Xbox.
Say that last one again?
4K.
Really?
It's going to support 4K. We don't know about yet about PS4.
That's interesting. So one of the things I thought as I was watching the demos of the games was that we've reached a point where 1080p is 1080p, right? I mean, you can put more objects on the screen at one time. You can have them moving around each other in fast, fashion or whatever. But ultimately, we're talking about 1920 by 1080.
Yeah.
And if that was all that this thing supported, I mean, even with the advanced, performance and everything, I mean, ultimately you're running it into kind of a visual limit, So if it supports 4K and can do that over HDMI, I don't know what the capabilities of HDMI are, but and thus will support next generation TVs. That's actually a big deal. When the 360 first came out, it supported 720p, and
no HDMI component.
There was no HDMI in the first one, and they added 1080i, I want to say, over time, and then 1080p over time, if I'm not mistaken, I think. And so it does support 1080p, but that was kind of a nice bump, So for people that bought modern HD TV sets and and eventually new Xboxes, you got those capabilities over time. So that's good.
From what I know, I think current HDMI, which is 1.4, does 4K at 24 frames a second, but 1.5 is being developed and it should be out within a year. That's going to allow, I believe, up to 8K.
Wow.
I actually did some reading. I'm not too sure if it's... I think it was 8K it does up to. So we'll see how that works. I think this is going to be really cool. I'm very excited for it. I'm just hoping it works exactly the way that they're saying it's supposed to work. Okay, so here's a question I have for you.
Yeah.
Let's say this new Xbox has a similar issue to what happened with the original Xbox 360 with the red ring of death.
I know.
I mean, let's just say there's some malfunction.
Well, okay, but before you get to that, I just want to say, when I talked to the Microsoft guys about the Xbox 360 before it shipped, they had their reveal announced like they did here. They showed off what the device was going to look like. It was very trim looking and small. And then I went and met with them, and they had their development system, which was 2 tower G5 or G4 system, whatever it was at the time, G5 maybe, humongous systems, And I had asked them at the time, like, how are you going to fit all that stuff into this little box? And they said, we got guys, we know what we're doing. Obviously, they didn't. When you look at this box, you don't really have that same reaction. This thing is big. So I think it's actually more likely over time that this thing is going to get smaller. As the components improve and the prices come down and all that stuff. I actually don't. I mean, I hate to knock on wood or whatever, but I don't see that being an issue. Where with that 360, I mean, without knowing anything about electronics or how this stuff works, I mean, I looked at it and said, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't get how you're going to do this. And sure enough, they had a lot of problems.
They took the power supply out, right? That was the main thing. That the power supply was outside.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hopefully this one, the power supply is inside and you just have a power cable.
Yeah, that is interesting. They didn't mention that at all.
I want there to be a cable that can switch voltages, something the Xbox 360 can't do, which is crazy. There are a lot of details we need to find out, obviously. So
Interesting. I want to continue this, and I have a bunch of questions and hypotheticals about what the future of this device will be, 3 years from now, because I don't think this is a device that they're going to switch out in 2 years. We've seen their plan with this.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 2020.
8 years from now.
2021.
Which is crazy. It's 2021.
Yeah.
If this thing lasts as long as the 360 did.
The future.
That's crazy.
Nobody thought, when the 360 came out, nobody said, oh, yeah, this thing's going to be here till 2013. Most people were like, oh, yeah, the next one will come out in 3-4 years. I mean, that's what everybody assumed.
That's how it gone.
Yeah. Interesting. Sure. Hey, Paul, it is time that we thank our sponsor, Audible. Audible.com, one of my favorite companies. I'm a big audiobook fan. My wife is. She did Outliers recently. She got the Outliers book from Audible, and she absolutely loved it. She listens in the car going to work and everything. But you could too. audiblepodcast.com/Andrew is the code, and you get a free audiobook when you sign up if you go to that website. Paul, what is your Audible pick of the week? We haven't done an Audible pick for a while.
That's true. I've actually been listening to Audible a lot more lately. For the last 3 or 4 weeks now, I've been walking at least once every day. I don't commute, and when I work out here at home, I usually watch movies or TV shows, although I guess I could change that up too. But I've been listening to audiobooks, and I had been catching up on the Dan Brown books ahead of his new book. And so actually I'm listening to his new book now, which is called Inferno. And I had started listening, I had listened to the Da Vinci Code and had started listening to the previous book, which is called The Lost Symbol. But I'm going to finish this new one first. And so I'm only about 30% or so of the way through it. But yeah, I like these books a lot. I mean, I think a lot of people give Dan Brown a hard time for various reasons. There's certainly have kind of a pulpy quality to them. There's certainly passages, like if you're reading it, where there's kind of an abuse of exclamation points or whatever, which I find humorous. But the sheer amount of research that goes into these books, I really do find impressive. And so even though they're sort of like James Patterson books and their pacing and everything, they all have over 100 chapters and so forth.
Yeah.
I find these to be great stories. And the Da Vinci Code, The Lost Symbol, and Inferno have all been read by the same guy, who I actually also find to be very good. And when I first started listening to the Da Vinci Code, it was a little off. He does women's voices and guys' voices and all that kind of stuff.
And it gets a little weird, yeah.
It got a little weird, but I got to tell you, now that I'm 3 books into it, I like this guy a lot, and I think he does a great job. And this is certainly a great continuation of this series. So that's the one I've been listening to is Inferno. I actually like it quite a bit.
And you could try it out too if you go to audiblepodcast.com/Andrew and check out Paul's pick of the week. Paul always has great picks. Generally, when I pick an audiobook, I'm always going for something that I'll learn from.
Yeah,
I haven't really got into an actual novel.
I go back and forth on that. Right, I do the World War II stuff a lot, obviously, or history books. Sometimes I just want to zone out a little bit. Even as recently as today, as this morning, where you're kind of inundated by all this stuff that's going on with work. Sometimes I just need to shut that off and escape a little bit. And we're coming up on summer, and obviously, if you think about not that laying on a beach and listening to an audiobook is necessarily the right behavior, but when you think about summer reading and so forth, I think there's something to be said for giving up the intellectual exercises for a little while and just zoning out.
Hellcat in our chat room says that he's still listening to the Lost Fleet series.
God, is this the Master and Commander stuff?
Yeah, I think so. What was the last one that I got? You know what? The one of the only novels that I've ever actual books that I've gotten on audiobook is Along Came a Spider by James Patterson.
Yeah,
that's the only one. Every other.
By the way, those books I like, especially the early ones. The first couple of Kiss the Girls, Along Came a Spider. The first 4 or 5 of the Alex Cross books are excellent. And by the way, great examples of good summer reading, and they're very fast paced. Chapter. They're very quick. Those are great. They're good books.
One of my favorites. And check it out, audiblepodcast.com/Andrew. I want to thank Audible for supporting What the Tech. hopefully nothing will break for the next 10 minutes that we have on the show. So, Paul, let's talk about the future of this device and what you could see them doing over time. Since it's running on the Windows 8 core. I mean, it's Windows 8.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with the next version of Windows comes out? Are they going to be updating this thing similar to how Windows gets updated? I mean, when Windows, let's say 9 comes out, is it going to get a Windows 9 update, or is it still going to run on the same?
That's an amazing question. What a great question. You know how when you go to an event, someone's but I was going to say you go to an event where someone's talking, and someone raises their hand and asks a question, and they go, "That's a really good question." And then I'll be the guy of the audience shaking my head like, "Nah, not really." That was kind of an obvious. No, but actually that's an excellent question. That is literally a very pertinent question. Everything that Microsoft is doing now going forward is either going to be an online service or will be serviced like an online service. And by that I mean it will get constant updates. So if you use the Xbox 360 today, you kind of know the dark side of constant updates, because when you turn on your console, you have an update. And when you start to run a game or an app, you have an update. This happens like all the time. It's really frustrating, and it kind of interrupts your experience. And so one of the goals of this new console is for that stuff to happen in the background. That's part of the multitasking, always connected goodness of this machine. So
it's always doing the updates. You never have to worry about it.
You don't have to worry about it. It just happens. Yeah. And think about it. You turn your console on. You want to play Call of Duty. You're having a bad day. You just want to shoot virtually and run around in a map or whatever. And the console knows that's the game that's in the disc. It knows it's there. And then you launch it and it says, "Oh, hey, by the way, there's an update. You don't have to install it, but you cannot play this game unless you install it." That kind of thing. So, given that, that kind of stuff should just happen, and that's the goal. One of the goals of this new console. So, yeah, I do expect this thing to be updated very regularly over time. Definitely.
The other thing that but we got no information for developers.
No, but build is coming at the end of
and that's what they're going to talk about. That I'm guessing.
Yep.
Because I'm really hoping they open this thing up.
I do too.
I'm really.
Well, people
really
ask about things like Xbox Live Arcade, or they have kind of an enthusiast developer program and so forth. It would be a huge opportunity missed if Microsoft did not make a version of Visual Studio Express just for the Xbox that allowed enthusiast developers to release apps that could go into a store. I would be shocked if they didn't do that. And so hopefully that's on the game plan.
It has to be cross-platform at this point, right? A lot of the gameplay.
Yeah, in an ideal world, you'd have one SDK that would serve Windows, meaning RT and 8, Windows Phone, and Xbox. I think it's maybe a little more realistic that there are going to be crossover bits, but that they're still kind of separate, and you can share code, but it won't be that complete experience. But I think they're going to get it there.
How about Office, Paul? Will I be able to install Office on this thing?
Yeah.
And talk to it?
Right. I hope not. I see no evidence of that.
But by the way, Rob Greenlee is in the chat room, and he says, "Thanks, Paul, for the Windows Phone 7.8 Lumia 900 update. All your fault."
Right.
So I don't know. This is exciting. This is great. Obviously, we're going to get some more information in 2 weeks for at E3, which will probably be primarily about the gaming experience and not the multimedia experience.
Right. They gave a couple of developers a chance to show off like a game, right? We saw Forza, we saw some EA sports stuff, and we saw Call of Duty, basically. And that was roughly everything that we saw. I mean, even the Halo announcement wasn't a game, right? I thought that was a little strange. They talked about a TV show.
Yeah.
So clearly that is coming. I mean, I think this was about the overall experience, the multitasking, the side-by-side stuff, the notifications, the entertainment experience.
Did you notice that they said, I'm sorry if you mentioned this, Xbox Live Arcade is not backwards compatible?
Well, so the console itself is not backwards compatible. So Xbox Live Arcade games now will not run on this new console, right? So the question is whether or not XBLA continues forward, and if there are new Xbox One games for that program, or if there'll be some kind of simple way for developers to port those games to Xbox One. I think this is something we need to wait on the developer announce before we can guess what they're going to do. Yeah.
I think it's really cool. I'm really excited for it. I mean, gigantic, yes, but I'll probably buy one the first day that it comes out. I know you are, and then I'll probably buy one game and never play it again. I mean, really.
See, I do the opposite. I buy several games and I only play one of them forever.
See, you know what's happening during this entire thing? Like, now I'm spending money. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to buy this thing, but I kind of want one in my living room and I kind of want one in my bedroom. So I'll probably have to upgrade one of my TVs at least. And now I'm like, okay, so $1,200 for the new TV, $500 for this thing. So I'm just counting how much I'm going to spend on this thing. It's going to be about $2,000, Paul.
This is going to be an expensive fall because there's the Sony. There are going to be other devices coming, tablets and so forth. I mean, it's going to be a busy time in the fall.
It'll be a very
expensive
busy time.
Save your money.
All right, Paul. Time to wrap it up. What do you say?
Okay.
It's
alrighty.
It's so hot in here, and hopefully nobody will notice that problem that we had.
I'm going to go up the street and play Xbox.
You are.
I am.
And our Vaughn feed died. One of our player feeds died. So if we could switch to JTV, that'll be great. I don't know what's going on today. Holy crap. It's so hot.
It's going to cool down tomorrow, I think.
I really hope so, because this is not good, and I need to come up with another solution for this studio because it's so hot in here.
Or move further north.
That's something I might have to do. No, it's still hot in Boston.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's hot here, too.
Yeah, it makes no difference. WinSuperside.com. I'm sure more information is going to be coming out this week about the Xbox and in coming days, and build is coming around the corner. I'm kind of, as someone that really wants an app on this thing, I'm really excited for build. Yeah. And I'm not a developer. What do you predict? Do you think they're going to open it up?
That would be crazy not to. I don't want to say, do I think they will? I think they should. And I think they would be nuts.
In the same sense, anybody could develop a Roku app, or in this...
Yep. You probably have never really looked at this stuff, but Microsoft makes free Visual Studio Express apps, for Windows 8 and RT, for Metro apps. They make one for the desktop as well. They make one for Windows Phone, and anyone can write these apps. Now, you have to, spend $99 a year to join the developer program and actually deploy those apps to actually, physical hardware, and then submit them to the store. But anyone can get this stuff for free and develop something. Will Xbox be that open? I hope so. I really do. I think it could. That could be just that 8 years from now, when we're looking back on this thing, we might look at that and say that was the thing that did it.
When they open it up to everybody.
Yes. Yeah, because it makes it more like an iPhone or an Android tablet or whatever. It's an explosion of possibilities once you open that up.
But the only thing that to me kind of says like they're not really going to they're going to open it up more, but not to everybody, is that they're really big on these partner deals, and they're all about the partnership deals that they're landing. It's a very different approach to an app store where everybody's in there, and you're really, if CBS has an app in there, that's fine. CBS is signing a partnership with Xbox. They're making it a big deal. I don't know if they're going to open it up to every single person.
Well, what they could do is what they do on Windows Phone, and I guess on Windows as well, where they have an Xbox Live program that requires certain, very stringent rules. The developer program for that is very expensive. It's designed for professional developers and not individual developers really necessarily, but developer houses, EA and Activision and so forth. But they have these, kind of hobbyist thing in the corner that's really inexpensive that anyone can do. And the Xbox is not just about games. Remember, it's also about apps. And so why can't we have all of those wonderful farting apps that we have on Windows Phone on the TV? I mean, that would be great in surround sound.
And listen, there's a whole market for private apps that are not in the App Store. I mean,
we need RSS readers on the Xbox. By the way, people complain about the lack of podcast support. Something that Rob Greenlee would appreciate. I mean, what if the people that made podcasting apps for Windows Phone could do that? Could port that very easily to the Xbox 360.
And I know Rob's been fighting for this. Rob has been fighting for this for a while now.
This is a solution for a real need, and so I hope they do it.
I do too. I really hope they do too. Now, you know what I am seeing though, if they open it up and they say like, okay, well, they'll get in the App Store, it's really strict. You could develop it. I could see this whole different community of people. You know, you're modifying the Xbox so you could get unofficial apps on there. That's what I'm seeing.
They already have this model in place. It works on the phone. It works on Windows. There's no reason for this not to work.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're developing a Roku app, why not be on the Xbox?
Right.
They want people using this thing as much as possible.
Well, I mean, we already know we're going to get the major players. Netflix is going to be on there, Hulu Plus, all that stuff. What we need is for individuals who have the chops to show up and give us the apps for those things that, you know, for whatever reason, the actual services are not showing up. And so let's just pretend that Amazon says, no, we're not going to make an MP3 app for Xbox 360. If there are APIs for that service, I mean, anyone could write that app. And, you know, and that's a bad example maybe, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, we have Instagram clones on Windows Phone. We could have similar things on the Xbox, you know, that would hit these services that expose APIs that anybody can target. And, you know, that's the app market. I mean, that's the world of mobile apps. There's no reason that can't happen on the Xbox.
All right, Paul, let's wrap it up. We started early today. We started at 3 o'clock because I know you have to be somewhere. And
for those people who tuned in at the normal time, please enjoy the 15-minute version of What the Tech.
Yeah, just to let you know, about 44 minutes into the show, we have a total meltdown here at the studio where the console didn't didn't work, everything died. So it was actually not the shortest show. It was actually a longer show than normal, but we're going to be replaying the opening, the first half of the show now. WinSuperside.com for all things Paul Thurrott. And I know over the next couple of days, you're going to have a whole bunch of posts, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to say. Yeah,
I imagine you're going to be writing for weeks and days and weeks and months about this topic.
It's a terrible problem to have.
Yeah. And of course, if you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian, you can follow Paul at Thurrott on Twitter, and we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.